Hey guys, it's Wendy here with Wendy's Retired Life, and today I thought I would talk to you about travel challenges that I have come across while I've been in retirement. I think I noticed these more once I went into retirement. So I just wanted to go over just a couple things. I think it's 5 in total. So the first one I wanted to talk to you about is I found out that during my travels that when I was even in my 30s and 40s, going into my 50s, I could travel. I could drive for hours on hours. I could walk. I could do all the things, and it didn't affect me. And then when I hit 60, and I don't know why, that was the magic number. But my body told me, Wendy, you need to slow down. You need to not drive as much. So when I was solo traveling, I drove and I stayed in an Airbnb for a month in a state. And so I figured out early on that I needed to budget my time driving. So I would not drive more than 6 hours. Now, if something happened and I was on the road and I had a hotel reservation, yeah, I kept pushing to get there because sometimes you never know with traffic what's going to happen. But for the most part, I limited my driving time to 6 hours. And in that 6 hours, I originally thought I will stop every 2 hours, and that was too much. So I would stop halfway going into my travel. So every 3 hours, I would stop, get out, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, just walk for a few minutes just to get my body back. Not feeling like that was all I was doing. I and I would be exhausted when I would get to my location. And that was an unusual thing for me. And to be honest, I don't know of a way that it's going to be any better, but I have found that if I kind of take it easy the first couple of days that I was there, not push myself like, okay, we need to see 5 different things today, and I limit it and I take it easy on my body would adjust. I found that also when I went international. So I would fly somewhere and I would meet my travel partner. Her name is Jan, and I'll talk about her in this video. And I fly from the United States. She flies from Canada. We'll pick a location. That's where we'll meet up. And I have found that I've never really been able to sleep on a plane. I might doze a little bit here and there, but I never could really get a good sleep. And so when I traveled international, I was finding that when I got to my location, for example, me and my son traveled to Ireland together, and that was an overnight flight. We got there, we checked in our luggage, but our rooms weren't ready. We got out and we walked right down from the hotel we were in was Victoria Park, and it's on the outskirts of Dublin. We didn't stay down in the city proper of Dublin. And we went to Victoria Park. We walked the whole park. I don't know, we just did so much that day. And that night we went to bed. The next morning got up and I was ready to go again. It was just a difference. And that was even in my 50s, and I could still do that. But what I have noticed is that as I age, it just affects me differently. So when I flew into Italy 2024, at the very end of 2024, it was the end of October, 1st of November. The flight was fine. We got there, we checked our luggage. We started sightseeing. We sat down, we ate. I didn't want to get back up. And we had a lot of sightseeing that we had planned on. So we did our little walk everywhere, guys. I can't even tell you how many miles. We probably had over 20,000 steps in that day. And we got back to the hotel. We all went to our rooms. I laid down and I could have just gone straight to bed. I was so tired. And then we went to dinner. After dinner, I felt so much better because they were the same way. And I have just noticed that I just don't have that stamina anymore. And it really bothers me. And I do try to exercise before I head out on my trip. I do think that helps some, is that I start walking way before it's time. I try to walk anyway, but I do start walking a couple months before it's time for me to go somewhere. And hopefully, and I feel like it does help. So I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. Number 2, when I was younger, I would not travel and check a bag. I always packed a carry-on and I carried it on. And now I have found I don't want to do that. As I have gotten older, I have really realized that it's worth checking your bag. For me, when I get to the airport, I'm by myself. I don't have anybody that I can say, hey, can you watch my bag? I'm going to run to the bathroom. Or I'm going to go get something to drink. If you watch the bags, I'll pick us up something. Or vice versa. So traveling by myself in my retirement, I have found that the act of carrying a carry-on is bothersome. Because every time you go to the bathroom, you have to lug that luggage in. When you go get something to drink or to eat, or just to get up and stretch your legs, you got to take that carry-on with you. And then when you get on the plane, you've got to lift it up and put it into the overhead bin. And while I don't overpack, guys. I learned really early on, I don't need an outfit for every day. I can re-wear my pants. A lot of times there's places you can wash in the hotel. And even international, I have found that I need enough pants. I usually take one pair of pants that can double, if we go out to a fancy restaurant or we're going to a location that we need to dress a little bit. I keep one pair of those, but the rest, guys, I have, I'm kind of in a color code. I have black, I have blue, and I have gray. And I have enough that I could take 2 of each one of those. I tend to, depending on the length of the trip. Now, the upcoming trip that I have is 11 or 12 days. So I will probably take 5 pairs of pants. I will splurge and I will probably take 6 or 7 tops, because not knowing the weather there, I may have to have long sleeve and short sleeve. And if it's hot, I don't want to rewear a top that I have just sweated through it, because that's another thing that I have discovered about me in as I age, is that I can't take the heat and I just really perspire a lot. So now I am in that dilemma. What made me truly realize that I was over the carry-on was my Italy trip. At the end of my Italy trip, I was done. I flew from Vienna to London, London to Charlotte, Charlotte to Wilmington. I was just tired of pushing that luggage through the airport. I was just done. And I promised myself at that trip, no more, Wendy. We're not going to do this. We're just going to check a bag. So if you have any bag recommendations, leave them down below, because I don't need a huge bag. I just need a little bit bigger than a carry-on, because my intent this time is not to carry a personal item on. I'm just going to carry my bag that has my headphones, my book that I'm reading, my phone, my passport, my money, my prescriptions, that kind of thing. That's the only bag I'm going to take. I'm not going to take any other bag. And I want to have room in my check bag to put anything that I purchase. So I know I could get by with the carry-on bag that I've been using, but I'm not. I'm just going to get a little bit bigger. And the other reason I'm going to carry on is because the sizes, I'm sorry, going away from carry-on to a check bag is because they have changed again the sizes of your carry-on. So I know when I bought my carry-on, I bought it specifically because it fit within the parameters of U.S. travel in their overhead and their carry-on regulations. And my understanding now is that you can't even, when you put your bag into the sizer, you have to put it in and let it go, and it has to go in on its own. You can't even give it a little push to go down. And mine is a hard case. And so if you don't push it, it's not going to go in there. And it's not because it's too big, because it's not. I do not overpack it. And if it doesn't fit, when I close my lid, if I can't zip it easily, I take something out. So it's not that it's overpacked. And so I don't want to fight with that. And I don't want to have to check a bag after I get to the gate. So, guys, I just want to be easy breezy going through the airport this time. So that is my opinion on carry-ons or check bags. I will be checking my bag. Now, number 3. I have a lot of opinions on this one, and I am going to combine 2. Number 1, tour versus planning everything myself. Guys, I learned early on that, number 1, I don't want to drive in a foreign country. I don't know their rules. I don't know their laws. I don't want to. And when I was researching driving in Ireland, I found out that it is mandatory in Ireland that you take their insurance on their rental cars. Now, it may have changed since I was there. This was in 2016. And the insurance was so expensive on top of renting the car. I couldn't say my insurance will cover it. They wouldn't accept that. You had to have their insurance. So I'm so glad I researched this before we left, and I booked me and my son on a tour. And there are a lot of reasons for me why a tour group makes more sense. Number 1, I don't have to sit down and figure out hotels as I travel around wherever I'm going, because I don't want to go to, let's say, Dublin and spend my whole week in Dublin. I don't want to do that. I want to see as much as I can see of Ireland. So I would have to go outside and book hotels for different areas. And I didn't want to do that. I'm going to be honest. I just didn't want to try to logistically plan out how much time I can go from here to here and see what I wanted to see and drive, and the drive time, and what about traffic, and what about, I didn't want to do that, guys. And I didn't want to figure out where to stop for a hotel. Tour groups, they know what hotels they're going to stay at. They put you in a location where when you get there, you can walk. You don't feel that every place that we stayed, I felt safe. I felt secure. I've never felt unsafe in any country, to be honest. It's so much easier. They know the routes to take. They know everything that we want to see. And so it cuts the hassle out of it. The other thing is you have a tour guide on the bus, and they're telling you everything that you want to know, and they answer your questions, and you meet other people. And for me, the experience in itself, it's wonderful. And that is the way I met Jan and Daphne. We met in Ireland the second time I went to Ireland. I went with a friend, a coworker, and I met Jan and Daphne, and the four of us stayed together the whole time. We did everything together. We had meals together. When we got off at a location and we had free time, we went and we explored together, and it was so much more fun. And highly, highly recommend it. I thought on the first tour that my son would probably be so young and so bored because everybody was going to be my age or older. Honestly, I thought everybody was going to be older than me. I was probably in the middle of the pack, and I was in my 50s. There were people my age, there were people younger. There was my son, who at the time was 19. There was another girl who was probably in her 20s. Another mother-daughter who was probably 30 and 50. Her mother was my age. Her daughter was a little bit older than Christopher. And then there were older people that had retired that was out just, having fun. So there you have all manner of people on these tours. It's not just for old people, guys. And the other thing is, when I plan a vacation, I look at everything there is to do in that area, and I want to do it all. Well, you can't do it all. So it's easier to let somebody else pick the best things to see and get in. And then the bonus to a tour is that anything that you would have to buy a ticket to, the ticket's already bought. You don't wait in line for a ticket. You don't wait in line when you get there. You go around to a special door and you get in ahead of everybody else, and you're not waiting in the lines. And so you do get to see a lot. So my four is really two things combined. It's, should you plan everything or should you pick just a few? My recommendation is pick a few, because you're not going to see everything. And I also want to throw in what I do now. Even though we're on a tour, we're going to have things, we have days that we have free time. So you will go out, you do things, and then they have excursions you can do. And we don't necessarily want to do every excursion. We do a lot of them. But like, for example, in Venice, we didn't want to do the gondola. We just didn't. I didn't, because I knew I couldn't get in and out. I had just had hip replacement surgery. I knew I couldn't get down and I couldn't get out. And that was a thing. You had to be able to get in and out of the gondola. And they had done it before. They didn't really want to do that. So we didn't do that excursion. So that gave us more free time doing the things that we wanted to do. So what all three of us do, so this trip is just going to be me and Jan, is we write down things that in each location that we're going to be and have free time that we want to do or see. And then we accommodate those things. We sit down and we say, okay, what is it you want to do? And so, and that's what we do. So we just pick a few things. I just make a list, and I will say, okay, this is my list, but out of this list, this is what I really want to do or what I want to see. So that's the way we handle it. So for us, the tour is so much easier than planning it ourselves. And the combination was planning everything before we go, or picking just a few things. And my recommendation, guys, just pick a few things that you want to see if you're doing a tour. If you are planning everything yourself, you're going to have to do what's right for you. But I will say, don't put 10 things down, because you're not going to get to them. And then you're going to be disappointed because maybe you wanted to do this last thing over here, but you spent all your time doing all the others, and now you can't do this last thing. So reel in what realistically what you think you can do, because you're not going to be able to get to do it all. So my fourth thing is traveling with or meeting someone there. How do I handle that? So number one, I have traveled with other people, and I've left the United States with other people, and we have traveled together, and we've done the tours and whatever. Now, yes, it is cheaper if there's two people in the room. Early on, and after I met Jan is the one that told me the secret to staying friends if you travel together. Y'all gonna think this is crazy. Book separate rooms. You need separation, because you can't be with somebody. I don't care how much friendship you have, how much you like each other. By the end of that tour, there's going to be some hard feelings, because I live my life differently than you live your life. And, you know, I'm going to give you an example. I always have examples. The person that went with me in 2018 to Ireland, every room we went in, she made an excuse to be in the bigger bed. Whether it was, oh, I can't sleep next to the door, I need to be over next to the window. Or, oh, I can't be by the window tonight, I got to be over here where the heat is, over here by the... Because most of the time, I'm not going to say most of the time, if you book a room with two beds, a lot of the time it's going to be a full-size bed and a what they call a single bed or a twin bed in the United States. She didn't want to sleep in the twin bed. She wanted a bigger bed. I get that. I didn't like sleeping in the twin bed, but you have to alternate. So that became a bone of contention for me, was that she continually tried to always get the bigger bed, the more luxurious bed. And the other thing was, she always wanted to sit beside the window. And her reasoning was, well, you've been to Ireland before. Yeah, I have been to Ireland before, but this was a completely new trip, a new tour. And yeah, I would still like to see what's going on outside the window of the bus. So I'm just going to tell you, there will be things that will grind on your last nerve. And once you realize that this person does this all the time, it gets worse. So I'm sure there were things that I did that she didn't like. Book separate rooms. That is the way me and Jan travel. We book our rooms. We pay the single person supplement. Guys, it's not that much difference. I don't think I've ever paid more than $350 more. And that's a one-time fee. It's not per night. It's just $350 or whatever. I've paid as sometimes they even waive it. When we went to Italy, they waived the single fee supplement. We didn't have to pay it at all. So it just depends on your tour. But I've never paid an exorbitant amount for a single supplement. It's worth it. It's worth it. I tend to travel exclusively with Jan now, because I do travel with my kids. And I do have a vacation planned later this year with my good friend Renee, and I will travel with her, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun because it's a totally different thing. I've been with Jan. I have spent the night at her house. I'm cool with Renee. Me and her are good. So I know it'll be okay. But me and Jan will be leaving, and we always meet up in the country that we stay. And this is the thing, we coordinate our flights so that if she's flying in from Canada and the flight that she can get, she lands at whatever time, I will try to book my flight to match hers. Now I'm going to tell you, I always try to match Jan's flights because I tend, she will go through an agency and let them book everything for her. And so since they're booking everything for her, I kind of match her flights. And even when we fly in the United States, sometimes like she came down, we went to Chicago, we went to Boston one trip, we went to New Orleans one trip. I try to meet her around her flights. And so if she gets there early, she goes to the gate and she waits for me. If we're international and we have to go through customs, we just wait right there at baggage and we wait for the next flight to come in. But we try to schedule them within a reasonable amount of time between each other, and we just wait. And then we share a taxi or Uber or whatever transportation to the hotel. And it's safer for both of us, and it's cheaper for us because we're going to the same place. So that is how we handle it. Typically, if you arrive earlier than your trip, like we try to get there a day early or 2 days early, some trips, the transportation from the airport or the shuttle from the airport to the hotel is included on day of arrival and day of departure. But we tend to get there earlier. And some tours will allow that shuttle to shuttle you even though it's a day earlier because you're staying at the same hotel. And some won't. So if it's a shuttle that is going to take me and it's no extra charge and I can go ahead and go to there, then yeah, I would do that. And Jen would do the same thing because it's a shuttle and it's not getting into a cab and going on our own. For example, in Iceland, she got there way earlier than I did and a couple of hours earlier than me. And so we knew at the airport the only way to get to the hotels was to take a bus from the airport. And so I just took a bus ride. It was fine. But that's the way we usually handle that. So if you are solo traveling in your retirement years, guys, don't hesitate. Do it. Just pay attention to your environment and what's going on around you. But especially if you're solo traveling, I would highly, highly, highly recommend doing a tour. And gosh, you're going to meet so many people on these tours that you're just going to have a ball. The last thing that I want to talk about, number 5, is the cost. I didn't think about the cost of my travels as much when I was working. And I have found that now that I'm retired, I have the time. I just don't have the money to do the big extravagant travels that I would do. And so it has really slowed down a lot. I did take a year that I traveled, but the way I traveled, it was not expensive because it was not any more expensive than if I was living at home and paying my rent, because I got rid of everything. I didn't have a home that I was paying for. Everything was gone. It was just me, my car, and what I could pack in my car. And I would go someplace and be there for a month. And I found out that on Airbnb, if you booked for more than 28 nights, most places gave you a monthly rate. And it was about the same as what I was paying for rent. So I wasn't paying the electricity. I wasn't paying the utilities at all, internet, nothing. So I was just paying basically what I would pay for my rent. So I could afford to travel for that full year. But now that I'm back into an apartment and I'm paying all that stuff again, I really just, because of the housing right now, the rent is so high. I can't afford to go on as many vacations as I did. And I can't book the more expensive travel. This is probably the most expensive travel I've booked in a long time. And I don't usually book this extensive a tour. But this is something that has been on my bucket list for so long, and it's something me and Jan wanted to do, and so we're going to do it. But how did I plan for this? Well, there's a lot of ways. So if you do a tour, you book it, you pay a deposit, and then you have until usually 2 months before the tour begins, you have to have it paid in full. So if you know that, if you're making your plans right now and you know that in November you want to go wherever, you know you have to have it paid by September. Book it and pay a little bit each month. And it's so much easier to do that way. It's just to make a payment. And so that's what I do a lot of times. I will tell you this time, that's not what I did. I did reach into my retirement account and take out the money for it because this was a big trip. And to be honest, I had just refurnished my whole apartment because I didn't have anything when I set up an apartment because I got rid of everything to travel. So I had artwork, and I had a few pieces of memorabilia that I had collected, or some pieces that my child had given me or my husband had given me, and I boxed those up. My sister-in-law graciously kept them in her closet. I had 4 boxes in her closet. So I had to start all over, and so I depleted a lot of my savings. So I did not want to take it out of my savings. So this time I just went through my retirement account, and I'm paying it off. So that means I have to double up and put money back into my retirement account. So that's how I do it. There's a lot of ways that you can do it. You can get a travel card that you use, and you put everything on that, and then you pay it off when you get back. And by the time you get it paid off, you're ready for another trip. Guys, there's so many ways that you can do it. What I would not suggest is to go so far in debt that you can't dig your way out. I love to travel, but I am not going to do it to the detriment of not being able to live. So those are the challenges that I have found in retirement. And some of them are age, and some of them are, you have all the time in the world, but you still also have things that you have to do here. So trying to figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do is probably the biggest struggle that I've had. That's the biggest challenge. And so, guys, I hope this helped. And leave me down below in the comments, leave me a suitcase or a plane. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.